Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second day of the winner's bracket. We've got Zhanhun versus Dewalt coming up, and helping me today, our Protoss expert, it is SuGo. What's up, man?
What's up, Nyoken? Doing good, man. Excited to be here. I just came back from the gym, showered, and hopped on, and ready to watch some really good PvP, man.
Yeah, it should be really good because Zhanhun and Dewalt, they're up there. If they're not number one and number two, they're number two and number three because the only one that could possibly surpass them is Bonneth. This should be a really epic PvP, I'm hoping. We saw Zhanhun crush Dragon last week. I don't think it's going to be a 3-0 this time. I think that this should be very close. And I'm curious to see if anybody's going to pull out some funky builds because, PvP, even though you expect it to be stuff like Goon Reaver, doesn't have to be. We could see some DT play.
Yeah, it's interesting because in PvP, it's very fluid in my opinion, meaning you don't need to follow a framework. In PvT, when you're playing against Terran, it's like, okay, I need a Nexus at 23, I need a Robo at 4. But in PvP, you don't need to follow that framework. And for me, I think the big kicker is who's going to be willing to take a couple of those risks and make some of those plays. If you're up 1-0, are you ready to throw down a 3-gate? So I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic here.
Yeah, because Zhanhun is a Chinese player, we don't really get access to a lot of his games. So you can't just go to Seawall and download his replays because I think China has their own server. So I'm curious how he'll open. Will he take risks, like you said? We saw Misters in the round of 16 2-gate every single game versus Dragon. If I was Zhanhun preparing for that matchup, I would have 2-gated every game, but actually he didn't. But Misters made that build look really strong. I wonder if somebody will, go 2-gate. We did see the bans for just a second. What was it? Retro and Lobotomy. So, pretty much standard bans there. Lobotomy's not going to get picked until the finals, so no shocker there. But what do you think about the remaining map pool?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised Retro was banned. I'm assuming it's because maybe the players don't want to be if you're contained on the one side and then they contain you on the third that connects, can be tough. Neo Dark Origin, that's interesting because that's where you can maybe throw down some of those shenanigans, maybe proxy gates. I think that's going to be interesting. Apocalypse, that's like a pretty good haven for a 3-gate. So yeah, pretty interesting set of maps. Like I said, Retro I think is a surprising one that they decided to ban that one.
Yeah, as a Terran, I like Retro. It's pretty standard. Any standard map I can get, I'm playing. One thing to point out is that the Retro ban did come from Dewalt, and then if you look at what the picks actually are, Radeon, Verier were picked by Zhanhun, both like standard maps like Retro, big 4-player maps, whereas Dewalt is like, nah, I don't want to play big maps. I want Dark Origin. I want Apocalypse. He actually picked all the weird ones there.
Yeah, you mentioned a thing earlier, Nyoken, about 2-gate. I'll be curious. I'll actually be surprised if we see 2-gate often here. No shade towards Misters and Drag and those folks, but this is like now we're getting to the echelon of PvP in the foreign community here. And as you go up the ranks, 2-gate's not really a powerful thing in PvP. There's a reason you don't see the amateurs and the pros really doing 2-gate because as you go up the ranks, these guys, they know exactly how to, beat those 3 zealots. They won't lose probes. I'll be surprised if we see some 2-gate, like actual 10-12. Proxy is a different story, but let's see. I'm excited for this.
Well, we're looking at profile stats. You can see that Zhanhun always does consistently well in the BSL, but he's always overshadowed by Mihu because Mihu's just such a god. He still has a high place finish, of course, 3rd place being his highest. Meanwhile, Dewalt, he's looking for his 2nd championship. You can see in season 3 he was the champion, but then it's basically BSL 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, it's like all 2nd places. He's like the yellow of the BSL scene, of the foreigner scene. Like, he just can't get another trophy.
Yeah, and Dewalt, and his like season over season rate of improvement, to me it's quite significant because there was a period where you see he got the 2nd and 3rd and then the 2nd place. There was this period in time where he was losing quite often, if I'm not mistaken, to Boneth and some of those PvPs, and there was like, stylistic difference and a little bit of his kryptonite. But then recently, I think he's kind of cracked that kryptonite, and now he's going toe to toe to Boneth. He's even beating Boneth in PvPs I'm seeing now. So I think the rate of improvement for Dewalt, it's big. And I think, if you ask me, I think it's 50-50 between these two guys going into it. But if I have to choose, I give a slight edge to Dewalt maybe in PvP here.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I think people are going to not be surprised that I'm picking Dewalt here also. But Zhanhun's a very formidable opponent. I can attest to Dewalt's skill improvement because, when Remastered came out, I can't remember if I played a show match versus Dewalt or something, but I didn't know who Dewalt was. And when I played him, even though I was still new to the game, I thought, okay, well, I can beat this guy. And then as the years go by, let's use 2 years ago, for example, I would say Dewalt was considerably better than myself. I would give myself, at best, maybe a 20% win rate if I had a good day. But I played him recently for some tournament. Can't remember exactly what it was. And you can feel it when you play him now. I would give myself less than 1% chance versus Dewalt right now. I mean, his PvT is unbelievably good. The multitask is insane. But, I also got kind of the same feeling versus Zhanhun, who I just played a couple weeks ago. When I played him, I'm like, I can go toe-to-toe with him. I've got all these vultures doing crippling damage to his probe line, and then all of a sudden he's max faster than I am, out multitasking me. I'm like, dude, what? These guys are crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And when you start playing these guys at this level, you join the game, and just from their initial scouting control, you can tell, man, this guy's got a different aura. And it's like that aura, and I agree with you. Dewalt, he's starting to get to that aura phase where it's like, man, this guy's good. I don't, the guy scouts you and you're already thinking okay, I'm already behind a little bit. So yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it is really tough to play versus players like him. We saw yesterday Mihu made it out over Boneth 3-1, so he'll be waiting in the winner's match. And meanwhile, Boneth beat Ziki in the bottom side, so he's moved on to the next stage of the losers bracket. But whoever loses here is not going to have an easy opponent waiting for them in the losers bracket, because it's going to be Xiao Shuai. And, it could be an interesting dynamic if we get Zhanhun versus Xiao Shuai, because, of course, being both Chinese, they're going to have played each other a lot. But it's also going to be interesting for Dewalt versus Xiao Shuai. I'm sure they have done some show matches versus each other, because Dewalt is just such a high-caliber player along with Xiao Shuai. But Dewalt, like I said, can't go to Seawall and find Xiao Shuai's replays, whereas Xiao Shuai could potentially, come up with some sniper builds versus Dewalt.
Yeah, it's interesting. Xiao Shuai's ZVP is monstrous. One of the best in the foreign scene. So yeah, no easy show. Whoever wins this, I mean, they got a monster of an opponent waiting for them.
Yeah, and I know that there are people that do go out and download replays and do snipe like that, and the reason I know that is a long time ago there was a ladder system called WG Tour, and
I remember that.
Yeah, everybody knows WG Tour. The way you reported was you said you won and you posted the replay as validation, right? So all the replays were available, and I will preface with this saying I had never played In Control ever in my entire life, never ever, didn't even know who he was. Well, for some reason I hit him in some tournament, and he blind countered everything. I'm sitting there, I'm so confused. How does this guy know everything that I'm doing? He ends up winning, and after the game, he tells me, yeah, I just went and downloaded all your games on this map and saw you always do this build. I'm like, wow, we've never played, and you just were able to do it. I find that kind of awkward. You shouldn't be able to do that, but we do have the potential to do that type of stuff on Seawall these days. So Xiao Shuai could be a dangerous opponent versus Dewalt in particular. So anyways, we are ready with game one. It is Radeon. Let's get into game one. Dewalt versus Zhanhun.
Yeah, Radeon's going to be an interesting map because it's pretty cookie cutter, like you said. So will folks be willing to take a risk here, or will they just play, Robo style into Nexus, Goon, Reaver? Let's see. But anyway, we got Dewalt here at the 1 o'clock. And then we've got Zhanhun from China, as everyone probably knows, at the 11 o'clock.
Well, Sugo, you're gonna have to eat your words, man. This is gonna be Proxygate.
Dude, it's a caster's curse right off the bat, man.
Yeah, you're feeling it. Literally, game one, caster cursing it. Well, I like this. I mean, I like anybody that goes against their image. Like, if this is Oyuji, I'm not saying I don't dislike it with it being Oyuji, but Oyuji at least has the image of being an aggro player. Dewalt, I'm not saying he's not aggressive, because when you play him, he can be aggressive, but he's at least not someone that does this that often. So I already like it, and I wonder if Zhanhun will 2-gate, because you were telling me in the beginning, 2-gate in your main, not that great.
Yeah, and Zhanhun, if I recall, the games against Drag when they played last week or whenever it was, he also did generally a later scout too. So I wonder if Dewalt was kind of paying attention, like, man, this guy, he's a little greedy. He scouts late. Like, if he scouts my center gates late, I think I can take game one easily. So maybe Dewalt had some good preparation, man. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, I also noticed that with a lot of players, is some players are just abnormally greedy all the time. Now, I want to ask you this probe timing, it's clearly fast, right? But coming in at 150 here, oh, did he just see it and back off? Looks like he saw it and backed off. I was going to say, like, if Zhanhun saw it, would he be thinking, like, okay, this was a gateway scout, or does this look like a center gate scout?
Yeah, I don't know if he saw it, though. It was really close. See, Dewalt tried to he quickly saw the edge of the gate, then he quickly moved back, because when you're playing this, you don't usually think you're going to get the first scout, But I guess Zhanhun's not suspicious. He's going downward, so interesting.
Dewalt positioned his probe like he had scouted from the bottom left side, and because he knows the vision of the gateway, he's put down a pylon in preparation for a battery. And hello, there's going to be 3 zealots in his base in just a second.
Yeah, this is really tough to hold. So, for Zhanhun, I'm curious to see, will he pull the probes off the gas once he realizes? Will he stop making probes of his own? And he needs a battery. So let's see if he handles it. And then you probably need to bring 4 or 5 probes and kind of aim down the first zealot pretty quickly. So let's see.
Well, he sees it, and I just want to point out, by the way, that Zhanhun is getting range. And I mention this simply because if he forgets that he's getting range, I don't think range really helps you here, does it? You just need stuff. Oh, he catches Goon.
Wow, very nice. And Dewalt was waiting for that. He lined the 2 zealots up, used the pylon as a wall, and he just waited for it. So I think once you lose the Goon right off the bat like that, it's very tough.
Well, by the way, Dewalt lost his probe, so he does not have a battery himself. But it is still 2-gate versus 1-gate versus 150 minerals, 100 gas, which doesn't help you with the range, right? Like, there's no second gate here, because Zhanhun is, well, he has the money technically, but he's desperately just trying to micro here.
Yeah, and this is tough, man. And Zhanhun has the right idea, like the 4 or 5 probes. You kind of try to aim 1 zealot at a time. His shield battery is still up, though, so it's not over. But Zhanhun, the probe line's going down to that 1 zealot now as well. It's looking tough from here.
This game, I think, is done, though, unless, okay, well, maybe if the Goon and probes can knock down these weak, he just taps out. GG just like that. What was that, 5 minutes? And we're already got a 1-0 lead for Dewalt. And whatever preparation Zhanhun had for Dewalt this series, well, all of a sudden you got to start questioning everything you've prepared, because I guarantee he didn't expect that.
Yeah, and I got to give props to Dewalt there, because he scouted, he saw the edge of the gateway, and like you called out, Nyoken, earlier, he went back out and did a pseudo fake, no, I'm just scouting you. That's a very important detail that didn't give Zhanhun the giveaway, and that's why Zhanhun then scouted downward. So, I mean, Dewalt really pulled this thing off nicely.
So Dewalt, he gets a win on. That was Zhanhun's pick, right? So now it's going to be Dewalt's pick, and he clearly wanted to play on these maps. And always great to start off with a 1-0 lead. If he can win here, all of a sudden it's a 2-0 lead. I don't know if you can win going down 0-2 versus someone like Dewalt. So it's imperative that Zhanhun has something planned here to win on Dark Origin.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, Dewalt, and that's such a surprising game one, right? I ate my words right in the first 50 seconds there, but Now, if you're Dewalt, you're up 1-0. You kind of played this mind game against somebody. Are you gonna, hit him with the 3-gate this time and try to get that nice 2-0 victory up? Maybe Dewalt will. I feel like I can't even say anything now because I got hit with the caster's curse so fast.
Yeah, this could be 12 Nexus on a 2-player map. For all you know, I have seen some proxies on like the mid left and mid right of the center of the map on Dark Origin, but it's super rare. I'm not saying I expect that, but I'm just saying I have seen it. I don't think. Well, I mean, Dark Origin is a 2-player map, and we've seen somebody built proxy gates behind the natural, if I remember correctly. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I forget who it was, but I remember that. There's many spots. Even you can build it like sort of in the center, but to the right side of the map as well. You can build it behind the natural. You can, as you know, you can build it right in front of their face. Even that's actually sometimes very difficult to beat, honestly. But if I'm Zhanhun here, and he might realize like, okay, man, these guys might have done some research. They know I scout a little bit late. If I'm Zhanhun, man, I'm scouting after a gate now. I don't think it's you can't play greedy like that anymore.
I think you have to, especially on a map like Dark Origin with, like you said, all the proxy positions. So let's get into game 2 and see if Zhanhun can tie up the series.
Not a bad game, not a bad map for 3-gate as well. I mean, so many things you can do. All right, so we got Dewalt, who surprised us all, I think, maybe just me. And we've got Dewalt here at the 11 o'clock, and we've got Zhanhun, who I think needs to, play a little bit safer here at the 5 o'clock.
And I was kind of laughing when you were talking about all the proxy positions on Dark Origin, especially with it coming from you. And the reason I say that is because I remember playing you one time on Circuit Breakers, and it was like you were top right and I was bottom left, and you proxied at the bottom middle expansion 4th base and 2-gated me. And I was just like, what? Like, how does he know I'm on the bottom side of the map?
Sometimes and that's the thing too in PvP. It's interesting. I know that's PvP, the example you're saying, but PvP is interesting in the sense that it's not like sometimes there's just like intuition behind it that is unexplained, and I think that's why folks like Rain, for instance, from the pro side, had such good success in PvP because he just had this intuition. He always knew, like, all right, this guy's going to go 3-gate, I'm just going Citadel. And you're like, how does this guy even know that? But intuition is like something that really can set people apart in PvP, because if you know something somehow from some really small intel, you can capitalize so easily in PvP.
Yeah, the intuition you're talking about is what I think a lot of people call star sense. I mean, before Game Timer came out, I mean, that's all you could rely on. You're like, something's weird now, right? Like, I don't know exactly where I am in the game, like what minute, what second it is, but something feels off. And, I'm sure everybody has experienced this, including yourself, where somebody's just like, they can't believe that you read it correctly. They call you a hacker, like, oh, you hacked because you didn't see my Wraith or you didn't see such and such, but you blind counted it perfectly. It's like, I don't know, man. I could just feel it, right? Well, both players were feeling like there could have been proxies, because if you looked at the scout pattern from Dewalt, he scouted his natural and behind his natural to make sure that there were no proxies. But actually there wasn't any this game, and in fact both players have gone mirrored builds, and I think also skipped the Zealot here.
Yeah, and even Zhanhun, he scouted right after the gate as well. He didn't want to take any chances, as expected, right? And I think both players mirror builds here. All looking super standard here. Can't lose that probe though. Zhanhun really doing a good job on that one.
He wants it, man.
Oh wow, 1 HP. He almost got it though. But little things like this, even in PvP, really can like get just a small advantage, 8 to 16 mineral advantage here and there. Usually another common thing you see is people will try to aim the probes that are on the gas. That's usually a common thing in PvP, because then you can get a little bit of a gas advantage. And you see Dewalt here trying to get his own advantage in the early game, blocking out, some 3-4 probes there. So small little tactics here. You would just want to get a slight eco advantage in it. In PvP, where most of the games are decided in the early to mid game, these small advantages really do, it matters.
Yeah, now, something to point out is Dewalt got his probe out, and I see it's over on the right side as opposed to going directly towards his main. And you were mentioning there's a lot of positions you could proxy. I could feel, a proxy pylon being put there and building like a couple more gates, but not going to be the case. Instead, both players have banked a decent amount of gas. There's a 100 gas discrepancy between Dewalt and Zhanhun. So I'm not sure exactly where that discrepancy is going. Did I miss a building? Oh, there it is, the Citadel.
Interesting. And so they scout. So when Zhanhun came with his probe, he scouted the range, of course, because his probe was harassing. And I guess from seeing the range and just his own intuition, he's like, okay, this guy is either going Robo or he's probably going to do a Nexus, honestly. So this was the intuition, the star sense we were talking about. And here you go. And Zhanhun also had his own range too, by the way. So Dewalt saw that and was like, okay, I think he's thinking to go Robo too. Let me throw a Nexus down. So it's very interesting. And then Dewalt here, he's going from the Nexus into a 3-gate, which is, kind of standard actually if you do the build that Dewalt did. But it's not going to pay off this time, I don't think.
Well, he's dead, isn't he? There's no Robo.
He's pretty much dead.
Yeah, you don't go with Forge with this. I mean, even I know that this is not going to be a Forge. This looks like one of those games, like what Raz likes to do, where he goes mass goon and hopes that it's Reaver, and a lot of times it is. But this time around, it's not. And unless Dewalt suspects something, whether he checks the goon count and it's too low, or the goons are missing range or something, he is on the brink of being not necessarily knocked out, but gonna drop a game here.
Let's go.
Dragon Broodwar, thank you for the massive tip, man. We appreciate that. Puts us closer and closer to the BSL goal.
And you see, Dewalt was poking in, but he sees 4 goons that actually have range, so he's even less inclined to think that it's DT or something. He actually probably believes it's like similar builds they did, because cross spawn, you both scouted each other's range. Throwing down a Nexus cross map isn't that uncommon, so I think we're gonna see a really fast GG here out of Dewalt once he sees the invisible guys walking by.
I like how his cameras got zoomed in. He still doesn't realize, but he's gonna realize in a second. And this should just be an immediate GG. There's no answer to it. This can't be salvaged. Like, you can't just micro goons and try and base trade like this thing. Yep, he sees it. He taps out before a probe even falls. Like, that's just how it is. He tried to play a greedy build, and they hit him with a mega hard counter. There's nothing you can do. It just happens. But there we go. Zhanhun, he puts a point on the board, and he needed that, man, because you ain't winning down 2-0. But now it's 1-1. We've got a best of 3 on our hands.
Yeah, and Dewalt went with the 9-9 first game, and then he said, okay, the build that Dewalt did it's a risky build, right? I mean, it was educated risk or calculated risk, if you will, right? He saw the range and he did it, but it's still a risk, and I still like Dewalt's kind of builds that he's chosen here. He's going big, and when they hit, they're gonna hit. So let's see though. But now once you get gut checked like that, you think to yourself and you're like, all right, I better tone it back a little bit. I better make a Robo this time. So I think this might be the game. Caster's Curse, hopefully not, but this might be the game we see 2-gate Robo from both players. Let's see.
Okay, yeah, Dewalt trying to hit a 10-leg parlay twice in a row, and that just doesn't happen that often.
He's going big.
Yeah, he's going big. He's going for the Hail Mary. I mean, sometimes that's what you got to do versus players of this caliber. And I mean, I just saw T21 mention in the chat the PvP lotto. Yeah, he missed it this time. Zhanhun had the winning lotto ticket. But wow, we're just directly into the game. Neither player wants a break. Nothing to really think about here. I just got blind countered. So let's get into game 3. It's Verier, Dewalt versus Zhanhun, 1-1.
And PvP, a lot of folks often think, PvP. You hear it, rock paper scissors. That kind of slogan we hear a lot, and I'm actually not of that opinion. Actually, I don't think it's that much, and I'll explain that in a second. But at the 11 o'clock here, we got Dewalt, who Is he going to go big? Is he going for the lotto 3 times in a row? I don't know. At the 11 o'clock. And then we've got Mr. Zhanhun at the 5 o'clock. Another cross-map scenario. But just to go back to the point, Nyoken, about the rock, paper, scissors, in my opinion, yes, of course, there's a rock, paper, scissors, just like in PvP and ZVZ. But you could argue that concept exists in really any matchup. People can just YOLO any build and just take you out. But I think PvP really does come down to the star sense, like we said, the micro in the kind of early to mid game, how you handle the engagements. And then 3, I think it's the person who is willing to take some like calculated risks, but very calculated. Like there has to be a reason, not just blind 4-gate YOLO. That's my personal kind of playbook for PvP.
Well, this is a 12 Nexus, so the lotto ticket is coming out again. But I agree with the sentiment that I don't think PvP is a coin flip. And the reason I say that is because you can go look at the stats. There are multiple players that have insane win rates versus in that matchup. Rain, for example, what was it, 90% win rate? I don't care who you are. You're not flipping a coin 90% of the time. Snow has like a 70% win rate, right? Like, so the fact that those 2 players still exist kind of nullifies the coin flippiness. And also, I've seen enough Rain games where it is Observer versus DT, him being the one as DT, and clearly Observer should have the advantage, in my opinion, yet he still wins. So, as far as this game goes, how does anything fare versus 12 Nexus? Can you punish it? Because, as a Terran player and a certain other Terran streamer, I've heard cross-spawn Nexus first can't lose.
I think I know who you're talking about, But,
yeah.
So I think, look, Zhanhun, first of all, he's obviously changed his mentality. He's scouting quickly now in all the games. He's going to get the second scout and see, oh man, this guy really did it. I think there are some counters. I mean, the most obvious is you can actually do like a proxy robo, but Verier is interesting. So Dewalt kind of planned it because you can't really build like right outside the nat in a comfortable position. I mean, you could build like at the 3rd and like slow crawl your Reaver, but proxy robo is a common thing. You could do proxy gates on the side, or you see it and you just immediately take your own Nexus and just say, all right, let's play this one out. So yeah, there's several routes. Fast DT drop. So several things. It's and for the person who does the 12 Nexus, it's not a straight shoot win. It's you have to cover all those bases I just mentioned. So it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, we'll see how Zhanhun wants to deal with this, because so far he hasn't committed to anything. There's no Nexus, there's no range, there's no robo.
I saw Zhanhun only had 2 on gas, so I wonder if he's just gonna. And then now he only has 2 on gas. I wonder if he's just gonna take the Nexus as the safe alternative. Looks like it. I see 400 minerals being banked up. So yeah, so he took one of the options, which was let's just play this one out. And I actually like the decision here because, like I said, Vermeer's hard to find a good situation for that proxy robo. And then, a player like Dewalt, will he already be prepared for all those other scenarios? The answer is probably yes. So, yeah, we're going to go into a little of a macro game. And of course, now Dewalt does have a bit of an edge, but Zhanhun's going to have the tech edge. So, robo will probably be faster. Reavers will be faster. So it's not like Dewalt's much ahead, probably just a little bit ahead, I would say, personally.
Also, what Zhanhun has going for him is Dewalt's in the dark. Like, he doesn't know what this is, which is why you see a second cannon, which is why you see a second zealot. If he knew that this was a Nexus, he's not building a second zealot or a second cannon. He's streamlining his build. So even though Dewalt is clearly up in econ, he's had to use parts of it to make sure that he covers all the bases like you're talking about. But look at this. I think this is a 4-gate, may even be a 5-gate. So we're just going to have Mass Goonman try and overrun a fast robo as a follow-up.
Dewalt, man, he really 3 games in a row. He's going big. And he's not even worried about like, okay, DT drop is one of the scenarios. He's like, who cares? Let's just go. And this build, by the way, that Dewalt's doing, it's actually, if you play like, PvP on ladder, I see this often. They just go Nexus, YOLO into 5-gate, and you just get run over. Yeah, so Dewalt's just like using one of the traditional PvP ladder builds here to, try and go big. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, we'll see if Zhanhun can actually hold it, because with he's got, what is it? It looks like he's got either 2 or 3 gates. I feel like you can hold this with your 2 or 3 gates plus Reaver, assuming it's straight Reaver, but it's not, by the way, because I see the observatory has been okay. Reaver support bay coming out now, but I mean, even though it is 5 gate versus just 3, you got to consider that the gateways were completed much faster for Zhanhun, so he has a few additional units. So something to, and he has rally point advantage, so also something to consider. So I think he should hold this now, because Dewalt is missing his tech. Like, are you worried if this fails? Is he in trouble?
Yeah, like if this fails, and Dewalt didn't start the +1 on the Forge either, actually. He just started it, I guess. It wasn't spinning before, so +1 is going to be a little late here. This is like the good timing, because this is where, the Reaver is a little bit late. But now Zhanhun probably knows, because at this point, he wouldn't be coming out with like 7-8 goons like that. The Reaver's probably on the way. As long as Zhanhun survives here, I think Dewalt will be in trouble, because shuttle into 2 Reavers from here, and Zhanhun, if he stops making probes, for instance, and does like a nice timing attack, man, it's dangerous to stop 2 Reavers if you don't have your own.
Dewalt is actually going into another Nexus. Now, I'm kind of... how to explain this? I'm kind of on the fence about this. On the one sense, I like that he's taking a 3rd base. On the other hand, well, okay, well, first let's talk about this, because this game might end. There's a 1 goon advantage right now for Dewalt. However, there's the Reaver that we were talking about. I think once he spots the Reaver, it's time to get out of here, and that's exactly what he does. But what I was going to say about another Nexus is, the thing is with Verier, if you put stuff at your 3rd base, it only defends the 3rd base. Like, it doesn't cover the top side of the main. So you got to put defense there, and the 3rd, and the natural, and that's a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah, and I don't think Dewalt would take a 3rd. Like, I think the 3rd Nexus, I think he was posturing for it, but from this point to take it would be a bit reckless in my mind, because his attack, which he was probably hoping to actually get damage done, didn't do any damage, of course. And he's got to know, two Reaver in the shuttle, it's coming. It's on the way. He knows. So he's got to posture and get ready for that. And you see, he's going up to 6 gate, and he's getting Reaver of his own. So he knows that it's coming. So if he was thinking about the 3rd Nexus, he very quickly decided to course correct.
Yeah, it looked like that probe was going to build the Nexus, but then instead built another pylon to give some vision. And like you said, Dewalt is just matching the tech of Zhanhun, and what was like a incredible eco opener. All of a sudden, good eco for Zhanhun. He's within 8 supply right now. That's definitely manageable in PvP if there's one insane Reaver shot that could easily nullify the supply advantage. And he's out on the map with, I'm going to guess, 2 Reavers, even though we technically didn't see the second one. He also has shuttle speed, so that makes his shuttle even safer and harder to deal with.
Yeah, but Dewalt's prepared for that shuttle a little bit. He had like a cannon and the 1 goon already there, so Dewalt's not taking any chances, but the cannon actually here helps. But it is actually 1 Reaver. Most likely, we don't know, because it would be risky to drop 2 there, but I'm curious. And, the longer this goes on, though, I just do feel like Dewalt's getting ahead, though, because that eco from the early game that he took the advantage, I mean, it compounds. And, Zhanhun's coming back for his 2nd Reaver now, I would imagine. And Dewalt, if he has 2 Reavers already, I don't think it's going to be close. Like, this next engagement is going to be very important.
Also, having the +1 upgrade, I can't really remember the exact reason it's very impactful, but it's either one less goon shot to kill a goon, or 1 less goon shot to kill a zealot. It's one of those. It's a key upgrade, and right now, Dewalt does have it. And if he tries to engage with even, oh my gosh, an open natural, and this is a disaster for Zhanhun. He's gonna lose all of his probes.
Wow. Yeah, and Dewalt was posturing to attack, but he just went for this, like, Reaver drop, and it did crazy damage. Wow, 16 kill Reaver. And that's all probes, so that's massive. And then we see the battle going on, the key battle. Oh, very important. And Dewalt has a great position on the high ground here. even with the Reavers, I don't know, but the initial positioning there was so strong. He sees the 2 Reavers and he pulls back. I think if I'm Dewalt from here, just run away. You got 16 probes.
Yeah, you just run and accept that this guy can never match your macro. I'm kind of surprised he even backed off from that position because, like you said, he had high ground. Now it's going to get weird because he's going to counterattack. But this guy has a lot of goons and he has a Oh, no, he's not going to counterattack. I thought he was going to commit to a counterattack. I don't know what happened to Dewalt's shuttle, but it's definitely gone. I don't see it anywhere out in the map.
Oh, almost. He's going for the shuttle. And Zhanhun's not really using the high ground here. I think Zhanhun was just kind of trapped a little bit on both sides. And now from here, PvP with a 30 supply difference, that's a very tough hill to climb up. I think if we think about what are Zhanhun's outs at this point, in a sense, it's can he get his own harass? And can he go and kill 20 of Dewalt's probes from here to level the playing field? And that's still not easy to do.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe DT drops the main, but he would have to have the archives, and there's already cannons set up at both the main and natural, so that's not a possibility. So I think at this point you can't really play for a mid or late game. You just got to take everything you've got, build as much stuff out of your gates, and hope that you can have the lotto Reaver shots and try and win the game, because the longer the game goes on, the bigger the supply gap is going to get. And they are mirroring each other. They're going to avoid each other in the center map. And actually, Zhanhun has the jump on. Oh, no, he doesn't. Dewalt has the jump on Zhanhun's army. So we are going to get into a base trade because Zhanhun's not turning around for this.
Yeah, a little bit of a base trade situation. But in this situation, Dewalt's so ahead. I think he just... I don't think Zhanhun can do much here. I mean, I think he might get up to the main. Could be a base trade situation of some sort, but...
Well, also something to consider is the archive just finished for Dewalt. So he could build 1 DT and it beats this whole army, just as an FYI. And there is an observer, actually, so I take that back. Zhanhun trying to hold his main, but there's just way too much Protoss. Also, by the way, Dewalt ended up getting a 3rd base and already transferred stuff over there, and he sent the Reaver back. So this is going to be GG any moment now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he couldn't get up the main. There was no chance, really. And Dewalt, what does he have? Like 8 gates at this point, which is thick in PvP, right? So Zhanhun's just trying kind of his last Hail Mary, but there it is, the GG. And, man, Dewalt really showcasing the bag of builds here. If I'm Zhanhun, I'm like, man, like I can't assume anything about this guy. Any assumption that you had about a player going into a match where you think you can prepare, I think you got to just throw that out the window here, Nyoken. What do you think?
I agree, man. I was not expecting to see these types of openers, at least not back to back to back, all 3 crazy builds. You would think Game 4 he's got to play a normal build. How many crazy builds can he have? But I don't think that's actually the case. I think, what's the next map? It's another big map, right? It's it's Apocalypse, right? And this is a 3-player map. Imagine if he gets another Nexus first and doesn't get scouted.
Nexus first on Apocalypse. That's crazy. That's actually a good map to build the proxy robo. But we have not seen the infamous 3-gate yet. Just like a YOLO 3-gate off of like 21 probes. We haven't seen that, which is like the most common YOLO PvP build, if you will. And that's common for Apocalypse, if you ask me. So now I know exactly how you feel when you're casting. It's caster's curse after caster's curse, but when you're finally right, you can feel good about it. So Let's see if we get a 3-gate this game.
I mean, I agree. I think I've seen 3-gate be quite common on this map. In fact, I've seen a couple times they go 4-gate for whatever reason. But if you suspect, right, if we're going through the list of strategies, if you suspect that 3-gate's a good opener here, why not try DT? If the guy ends up not going 3-gate and he goes DT himself, well, then you get into a weird DT versus DT situation. But at least you have a hard counter also versus the 3-gate. What do you think about DT for Dewalt here?
Yeah, DT, and right, that's what Zhanhun did on Dark Origin, as we saw. DT is super viable, and Dewalt hasn't done DT yet, so this could be the game where he wants to use DTs finally.
It could be. So let's get into Apocalypse now, and let's see if Dewalt can actually finish the series 3-1.
All right.
Go ahead. It's all you, man.
Sorry, Nyoken. At the 7 o'clock, we've got Dewalt, who has hit the lottery 3 times, the world's richest man. And then we've got Zhanhun at the 5 o'clock, who is not taking any real risks yet so far. And I'm curious to see if he will. He seems like a very straight, safe forward player. And, actually, just because I'm a fan of the game, I want to see a series here. I want to see some risk by Zhanhun, in my opinion. What do you think, Nyoken?
That would be nice. Right now, he's just playing like the scratch-off tickets, whereas DeWalt's like, F that, I'm not playing for $1. I'm playing for the full Powerball. I want to hit all the numbers, get the jackpot. I would love to see Zhanhun turn on the juice, but I think at this point, also, you're down 2-1. Can you start going crazy at this point? Like, you're gonna feel bad if you go like do an insane build and lose, right? You're gonna start questioning like, why did I do that and stuff. So I actually think he's probably just gonna play normal again.
Yeah, that's true too, right? The mindset is like, man, if you just lose to 1 DT in the final game, you feel bad about it. It's like, why did I do that? Yeah, that's a very good point, Nyoken. Maybe he will play regular, and so far we see both players, gate, gas, very sort of normal game. Dewalt still with a little bit of an earlier scout, but you see he's scouting for some of those oddball locations, and that is actually a location where people can blind proxy use. So Dewalt still, he has a lead, but he's not taking any risks. And we see Zhanhun still not a late scout, but kind of late, after the core, especially given how the games have been going for him. So Zhanhun a little bit back to his, not greedy, but kind of, his comfort style, I suppose.
And like you said, there's the delayed scout from Zhanhun, and he's going to get unlucky again. Going to find Dewalt last. And Dewalt just seems to have luck on his side. He gets in first. He's gotten in really quick, and he could go for the dreaded Manor Pylon if he wants. I think both players skipped Zealot, if I'm reading this correctly. So Manor Pylon would be devastating.
And Zhanhun actually realized, like, okay, the scout came first. He course corrected that, so he saved some time, and kind of got a pseudo first scout, I guess you could say. And so now, that helps. Obviously, Zhanhun here, he's gonna see, okay, my opponent also skipped the Zealot, so at least he evened it up there.
Yeah, now we had this scenario last time where both players see range and then they leave the base. And Zhanhun said, well, that's nice that you saw range, but I'm going to go Citadel now. And I wonder if he'll try that again. I don't see any cancellations of the range upgrade, so both players so far are committing to it.
Interestingly enough, so Zhanhun has that forward pylon in his base, like slightly above the gateway. That is often kind of a telltale sign that the player's gonna go robo. And I wonder if he will, but if I'm not mistaken, Zhanhun has low gas. He must have taken off gas in order to go Nexus.
This looks like it's either Nexus or 3-gate, but the probe is up here, so you're right. It is going to be a Nexus follow-up. There, you were right. You called it a 3-gate, but did you call it for Dewalt or did you call it for Zhanhun?
I don't know, man, but I'll take the win this time now.
Yeah.
So this is interesting, right? Because now you see, okay, well, Dewalt's going 3-gate, but Dewalt isn't doing the 3-gate variation where you hold the probes. That's like more of the all-in YOLO that you'd see on ladder, but Dewalt's been making probes, so he's not doing the all-in variation, and that can actually be beaten by what Zhanhun's doing if Zhanhun goes into 3 gates, which he is. So I would actually potentially give, it's going to be based on micro, but I actually think Zhanhun could hold here and then take a massive lead.
Yeah, if he holds the attack, I mean, this is like unrecoverable. I don't know how Dewalt would try and transition this into a victory, but there is going to be an advantage in the goon count for Dewalt, for just a few seconds. The rush distances on Apocalypse, not exactly the farthest, but not exactly the closest either. Those gateways are about to be done. And also you got to consider Apocalypse has high ground. Like, Zhanhun can buy a lot of time just sitting on high ground.
Is Dewalt going 4-gate? Is he gonna do it? Okay. So
Yeah.
Dewalt is, he has no scouting intel. He hasn't seen much, and Dewalt's like, okay, I think I gotta put the robo down. This actually means that Zhanhun was gonna get quite ahead, actually, I feel, because now Dewalt's not really committing to, too big of an attack.
Oh, okay. I was thinking this is his opportunity, right? He drew the goons off of the high ground. Now he can get into high ground. And now he's in a really good spot. It's 6 versus 6 though. So this is what I was talking about. There's only a small window of opportunity. And that goon took a lot of... Why did he move into high ground like that? No, he can't win this fight.
Wow, I don't think Zhanhun at least expected this in the slightest, and just that small micro, he was risking it for the biscuit, as they say, Nyoken. He wanted that one Dragoon dead that had like 1 HP, and that was the potential the game-ending mistake.
Okay, well, Dewalt, he kills the Nexus. I guess he could technically try and end the game here. But he doesn't have to. He can just, again, sit in an arc. I've heard it's a good style to play, and he can just tech himself, go Reaver himself. Then he's got Goon Reaver versus just Goons, I think.
Yeah, and then breaking out of this position, like for Zhanhun, once you're contained inside the base here, it's very challenging to get. Like, it's almost impossible to get out. And so, man... I feel for Zhanhun on that one. I've been there before where you're like, oh man, that guy, he's a fool. Like, I almost got that one goon. Let me go and kill it. And before you know it, you're just getting pummeled by something you didn't expect. So I feel for him on that one.
Yep, he's going to have to channel his inner Oyuji here because this is not necessarily unwinnable, but it's about as unwinnable as it can get. And Oyuji had an absolute miracle versus Boa in the earlier stages of the BSL, but I don't think Dewalt is going to let this slip. However, he did trade a decent amount of his goons there.
Yeah, I wonder if Zhanhun, I think he's going to try to break out. If his Reaver is faster than when Dewalt's Reaver gets there, he can at least push Dewalt back out and then kind of make a run. But, Dewalt's shuttle's on the way now already with the Reaver. So, oh wow, we got to take a pause for this. Mr. CRVT, 2,000 euro donation to support BSL. Thank you so much.
Holy crap, CRVT always clutches it every single season of BSL. I think he single-handedly doubled the donation count just with that single donation. Thank you so much, CRVT. You're the hero of BSL. And I know you're a Protoss player too, so I know you're rooting for Dewalt. Well, I think you're rooting for Dewalt, but you're definitely happy to see this Protoss doing work here. That Reaver almost got shot down, ends up losing the shuttle, but there's just way too much stuff here for Dewalt.
Yeah, it's tough from here. I mean, losing the shuttle was big. That is kind of one of Zhanhun's outs, but it's tough from here. I mean, even if he breaks out, but the shuttle drop by Zhanhun on the side, he can even the level playing field here by getting a bunch of probes.
He can win. He can actually win. He's killed so many. The Reaver, kill those goons, man. Get off another shot. Get off another shot. One more. No.
It's close.
Oh, it's dead. He can win. He's up so many workers right now. He doesn't have another Nexus, but he's still got his Reaver alive.
Wow. The harass play. Dewalt's down to 11 mining probes, I believe. Zhanhun has his full probe count, hasn't lost any. Zhanhun, wow, very, very nice. That was it. That was the Oyuji play that you're talking about, Nyoken. The one out.
Yeah. He killed so many probes. Now Dewalt, he does have 2 Nexuses, so he can recover. Oh, one thing to point out here. Zhanhun has no gas. Okay, the reason he has no gas is he's focusing on his minerals to get his Nexus up. I was going to say, like, I don't think he can necessarily move across the map and end the game because he doesn't have enough gas to continually build Dragoons. So there is going to be a bit of time for Dewalt to recover. But man, what a massive swing in Zhanhun's favor.
Crazy. I think it was 17 kills, Nyoken. I mean, that's crazy. And his attack didn't work. Zhanhun defended it perfectly. His own Reaver popped out right at the nick of time. He actually had one dudded Scarab at the end in that battle when he was defending his base. But man, that was really nice. And I think from here, Zhanhun's got to know he's either even or he's ahead. He definitely can't think he's behind in any sense.
Oh yeah, there's no way he thinks he's behind. It doesn't matter how long that natural is. Oh, no way did that probe miss that shuttle. There's a transfer, so he's going to save some of them, but this is the lotto that Dewalt was looking for. He's like, wow, that Reaver drop worked out pretty well. Let me try my hand. But I don't think he can survive. I think he's dead. There's double Reaver here.
Yeah, and Zhanhun has 2 Reavers with his army. Yeah, I don't know how Dewalt can possibly defend this one. And yeah, he's even sending it back because he knows he needs at least his 1 Reaver to even have the slightest chance. But Zhanhun's shuttle's really low. Just some bad micro there. One mistake and you aim it down, it can help a lot.
Okay, this is really dangerous. There's that shuttle in the back. Also, the Reavers are doing work. But like you said, the shuttle's really low. There it goes. The Reaver, what are you doing? Don't watch. Don't watch your brothers just fight by themselves. He's just sitting there.
The Reavers both have what low. I think Dewalt's 1 Reaver can take him out. Oh, almost. 1 more shot. 22 kill Reaver. Wow. What a crazy game.
He got his Reaver back, and you know what? Zhanhun did not kill the Nexus, so like it's still there. Like Dewalt can, I think, recover. Oh, the hot pickup. I don't know if he can recover because there's not that many goons left over. It's just 1. And I think Dewalt, as he sees, he can't win anymore.
Yeah, I think Zhanhun's got a big edge here. Dewalt didn't get enough probes with his Reaver, but I understand he had to send it back. And you see that Reaver, he needed to send it back in order to even just barely survive. So, yeah, this is tough. I think you're right. Yeah, Dewalt, GG. Man, Dewalt, he had that game, but that one, was it 17 kill Reaver on just probes? That was intense, man. What a nice game.
I literally just said here, the CRVT must be happy to see Dewalt winning, and then the shuttle bomb kills all the probes. And now Dewalt, he's going to be feeling like, what the heck, man? I had that game. It's 2-2 now. He could be already like celebrating, getting ready for his match versus Miku, but instead he's got to play 1 more game, and then if he loses here, he's got to play versus Xiao Shuai.
Man, crazy game. And what's the final map? Do we know, Nyoken?
What is the final map? Oh, it's Citadel.
Citadel, okay. That's another. It's an interesting map because those little high ground bridges on Citadel are vicious, man. Like, you think that you're gonna get the shots to come out, but they never ever hit on that high ground on Citadel. My experience, anyway. And I found that many PvPs have fallen because of those weird high grounds. So I wonder if these players have that same PTSD that I do.
I'm sure they do, man. But something I did want to point out, because I just realized it, is both players have lost on their map picks. they picked these maps and they lost on them.
That's actually really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I guess because you feel so comfortable, and then I guess one thing that the opponent does throws you off, and then your game plan's out the window.
Indeed it is. Well, our players are ready, so let's get into the final game of this series. It's 2-2 between Zhanhun and Dewalt.
Man, final game, game 5, always a treat. I'm curious how they're going to deal with this, but all right, we've got Dewalt, who lotto after lotto, 3 gate, but that time the lotto was not in his favor at the 11 o'clock. And then we've got Mr. Zhanhun, who, man, what an impressive comeback. If I'm Zhanhun, I'm feeling good probably after that kind of comeback at the 1 o'clock.
Yeah, Dewalt was playing last week's lotto numbers. He went up to the to the 7-Eleven to cash in, and the teller said, "Sorry, sir, that's last week's number." And the Reaver dropped in and just completely obliterated what he thought was a winning ticket. And I was gonna say, Citadel does have buildable terrain in the middle. How do I know? Because one day I hit back to back proxy 2 gates, and at that point I was like, all right, we're done today, because I can't take it. Citadel 4 games in a row, and it be back-to-back proxy gates, but not going to be the case this time, and we are just going to have at least a normal opener for now.
Yeah, neither player even scouted after their gates, so I wonder, is their mindset like, all right, this guy's not taking a risk. It's game 5. Who's taking a risk on game 5? And I think that's a fair question. I mean, like we said last time, Nyoken, I think you mentioned, like, if you lose to something like 1 DT in the final match, are you gonna, you're gonna be mad at yourself? And I think that might be the mindset that these 2 players have right now.
Oh, actually, I thought it was Dewalt scouting fast, but it's actually Zhanhun scouting fast this time. And luck's going to be on his side. He's going to find Dewalt first. Dewalt's the one playing a little bit greedy. There's no movement from the probe. In fact, even going out to build the cybernetics, he goes back to mine. So he's really focusing on getting that econ a little bit better this time.
Yeah, but now that he sees that, okay, this probe came this early, I feel like it should trigger a scout. Yeah, I feel like if I'm Dewalt, I would just go scout the middle now, because is it really worth the risk? But I actually don't see Dewalt even doing that, so he's just going full on, let's optimize eco mode right now.
In my experience watching the few PvPs that I do watch, a lot of times when I see players scout this late, it ends up being a 3-gate. I could be completely wrong about that, but that's my initial impression of Dewalt's build. I'm trying to see, will either player skip range? Both players have the 150. There goes Zhanhun's 150, and there goes Dewalt's 150.
Yeah, super standard. Dewalt, though, he was smart. He didn't actually go to the middle, because I guess he realized the timing of the probe in which it came from one of the, adjacent positions. So he didn't even waste time scouting the middle. Quite smart, actually, to probably notice the timing. So let's see. Standard so far. Both range, both 1 gate. Let's see if somebody's going to go a robo.
Both 3. Actually, is it Dewalt with 2 on gas? I'm not actually sure. Those probes are yeah, I think it's 2 on gas for Dewalt. So where's that money going to go? He's got the 200 gas right now, and it goes right into a robo.
So Dewalt has 3 on gas, I believe, but it was, I think his own, I think the pylon was 1 hex over. I don't know. That it looks strange, actually, but interesting. We got Robo versus Citadel. So I'm assuming that Zhanhun's going to go into a Nexus here with the cannons.
It's a common follow-up after the DT cannon Templar.
Yeah,
this is a good counter from Dewalt, right? Like, this looks like it's going to be 2-gate ob or 3-gate ob.
Yeah, if it's 3-gate obs, which it is actually kind of the counter to this, actually. So, in some sense, because if you hit that nice timing, and then Zhanhun gets greedy, has like 1 cannon less, for instance, it's tough, man. It's tough to hold. It really depends. Will Zhanhun make 1 DT only, or will he make 2 DTs? See, 2 DTs is actually really important in this situation, but he doesn't know that Dewalt's going 3-gate. But 2 DTs means that Dewalt has to wait for the second observer, because the counter DT is waiting. So I think some small things like that can make a big difference here to decide like how Zhanhun fares.
Well, so far everything looks pretty normal. We've got the cannons coming down, and I guess we technically didn't get to see if it was Reaver or Observer first, but I'm gonna assume that it's Observatory. Yep, there it is, and this is going to be pretty much as big of a counter as it possibly could be. Now, the probe actually intercepts the DT, by the way, and I think he saw the blur because he was looking there, and look at that. Yeah, I think he already knows what's coming.
Can the DT squirt by and before the ob picks it up?
Oh,
Does he actually know, though? I wonder, because okay, he knows. He was waiting actually for it to trap it.
Oh my my gosh. Yeah, I was watching. I was like, did he really miss it? Is he going to let it walk in and kill every... No! Okay. It ends up getting taken down, but I was thinking like, no, don't think that you actually killed it and you didn't kill it, because then you're in trouble, because it's going to go wipe out your mineral line. But like you said, this is, I think, the biggest counter you can have, other than, of course, Proxy, Robo, Reaver, Observer, which I don't think is a thing. But I've heard that goons melt cannons, so this is going to be really hard to stop.
Yeah, Zhanhun did make the second DT, but Dewalt's ready, man. He already has his own second Observer ready, and then now let's see how this goes. This is tough. If those other two cannons were done, then Zhanhun would have been fine, but from here, it's tough to hold. You have to pull probes. You start losing your econ advantage from your own Nexus. But
he's not focus firing.
Yeah, he's not focus firing the cannons, and I think Zhanhun is gonna hold here. Though losing that one cannon here actually still keeps Dewalt able to keep good pressure on.
I don't even know where that Zealot came from, but he's gonna pop that cannon. Oh, he pops that last goon. He's gonna pop that cannon. Yeah, I think the cannons will still win, though. It's 1 versus 2. That goon's gonna die. So he ends up saving his base, but he does lose a lot. He does lose all those cannons. He lost his goons. He, I think, didn't really lose that many pros, but now he's got to continuously build cannons, which is very painful. Meanwhile, Dewalt is expanding himself.
Yeah, and that pylon's also not in a good position for Zhanhun. I wonder if Dewalt will even just try to aim the pylon. It's a lone pylon in the front. It's very, like, it's out of position in this situation now, so maybe Dewalt can capitalize.
Yeah, I mean, Scan has told me about how cannons can hit from a farther... there's no way he can stop this, right? Oh, okay, you can stop it with a storm, though. But what I was gonna say is, like you say, can't he just hit the pylon from here without getting hit back?
Yeah, I think he can, but I mean, you can't assume either that they just don't have one more pylon behind, and then if they storm you again while you're aiming the pylon, it could be risky. So, but I think he could, though, to be honest.
Well, either way, it's not the biggest of deals if the game just progresses, because both players still have their own naturals. They're gonna have, good econ. Tech is sort of lacking for Zhanhun in the sense that his Robo has just now started. 4 versus 4. Who's gonna win this? The answer is it's gonna be Dewalt for now.
Yeah, it's interesting because Zhanhun did take a little bit of a economic hit. He lost, I don't know, maybe let's say 7-ish probes. So Dewalt's eco is healthier, but Zhanhun's going to have Storm ready, as we saw. He's going to have +1 ready as well. I'm sure he has speed on the way. So from a tech positioning, Zhanhun's looking good. He didn't lose too many probes. And I don't know if Dewalt's Storm will be ready in time, because now the Reavers are a little bit nullified at this point into the game.
Dewalt just is relentless here. He's just like, I don't care if you're going to stop this army. I want you to keep building more cannons. He tries to go in again. Now with the reinforcements, I guess he realized, like, this is finally not going to work. The Storm, where is it? Can it be a good one? That is pretty decent. It gets a goon and gets some trailing damage. And now finally, Zhanhun may be looking to do something here. He's going to pick off another goon for free. That's nice.
Yeah, and is Zhanhun going to take a Nexus? No, I don't know. Okay, it's just a scouting pylon. Okay, makes sense. Zhanhun's a +1 when it kicks in. I think that's what he might be waiting for to make like some decent timing attack. But it's an even game right now. I think maybe even a slight advantage to Dewalt just because of the eco.
Both players have a lot of gates. It's going to be 6 gate versus 4 actually for Dewalt. Uh-oh. Oh, it's a DT drop, but he missed the cannon. So this is going to be annoying, but not really do anything impactful unless there's no observatory. I know he has a robo at the corner of his base. Does he not have an observatory? He doesn't. So, okay, I mean, this is going to do more damage than I thought. He's going to kill a pylon, maybe force out a wasted storm.
Yeah, I think he's going to waste... At least Zhanhun's +1 finished, though. Actually, did it finish in time, or was that pylon powering it? Oh, no. Wow, that's actually big.
Yeah, if he gets that +1 weapon, that would be a big loss. And it is going to buy Dewalt time to ramp up his own gateway count.
And I think, yeah, that Forge, the +1's got to be almost done. So I think that was huge, actually.
That Templar.
And a Templar. Wow. Yeah. This did it quite a bit.
Yeah, that DT was like, excuse me? You really want to storm me? And he just went over there and two-shotted him. He's not afraid of that single storm. I don't think the +1 was canceled. I think it completed, and now he's trying to get rid of this archive, but that's not going to happen. However, this DT in the middle of the map is doing some work. He doesn't realize the DT is getting free damage off.
Yeah, but Zhanhun's still 0-0, so I don't know what happened to that Forge, actually.
Oh, I don't know either. I get maybe... I thought it completed, but maybe... Oh, it's still spinning. Okay, maybe it just didn't finish yet. Oh, it wasn't spinning. Okay, so it just started, kind of.
Wow, okay. Interesting. Man, yeah, Dewalt, that's... Who knew when... Okay. Now, okay, so Zhanhun had started +1, but when the pylon died, it just like halted at like 90% or something like that. Okay, so not too bad for Zhanhun. I think that +1's very important here. And I don't know, Dewalt, I'm sure, yeah, his +1 will be done soon. So I feel like Zhanhun should try to make a little bit of a play here. But he probably doesn't feel confident that he's even into the game here.
Well, he doesn't even have any vision. Like, he doesn't have an observer to even check on what Dewalt has. Like, he's never gotten into the main. He doesn't know what the comp is. He doesn't know if there's a third base. He doesn't know if there's Storm. So I think he's hesitant to make a move and will instead just expand. Uh-oh, this could be a game-changing drop. Is it Reaver? Is it Storm? It's Storm. Hello. Goodbye, probes. Gets, I would say, maybe 6 or 7. Something along those lines. Oh no, it's a move command.
Wow. He caught him as he was going down. I think Dewalt's going to clean this army up really nicely now.
Oh, big mistake from Zhanhun there with the move command. Probably just a misclick, and now supplies have plummeted. It was pretty close, like 120 to 110. Now it's 125 to 93, and that was the jackpot that Dewalt was looking for. He's going to not only kill this army, but probably cancel his third base. He's reinforcing really quickly, and critically, I noticed that he kept the shuttle alive. It's still at top middle. Wonder if he has another drop waiting to hit that mineral line.
Yeah, and the drop was like well timed. It was like in conjunction with an observer, and Zhanhun was chasing the observer, and it was like paired with other multitasking going on. So, man, very well timed everything by Dewalt.
Oh, he does have a Templar. He just unloaded it, checked the energy, and here he comes. He wants more probes. And Zhanhun is not looking at his natural right now. Okay, the Archon just baited the Zealots in, man.
Yeah, he's waiting now. That was a great pickup by Dewalt in the middle of the map, though. I don't know, I'm not sure what happened to Zhanhun. I know it was probably a misclick. I think it happened during the time he was trying to move. Oh, another... I don't know how many probes were there, but it must have been saturated again. 10 plus, maybe?
Yeah, it was a lot. And now, I think GG's coming. I think at this point, taking too much damage. I guess Zhanhun doesn't know that Dewalt has a third base, so he may be thinking like, well, I've got a third base. If I hold it, maybe I can recover. But if he saw that Dewalt is mining on the third base, I think he would just immediately leave, because there's no way he can match the econ now. He's just way too far down. He is going to try and defend because, of course, this is a tournament. This is his, not necessarily his last game, but it's his last game in the winner's bracket. So he wants to avoid going to the loser's bracket, but there's no way he can stop this army. It's just way too much, and the reinforcements are just never ending.
Yeah, and Dewalt's got, basically double supply lead here. So I think we're Zhanhun's couple of minutes here away from a GG, even sooner probably.
Nexus is going to die. These goons are going to die. And with that, that means that the GG comes out. That means Dewalt, he will avoid the loser's bracket for now, but Zhanhun put up a really, really good match. He had opportunities to win the series. He obviously had a miracle game on Apocalypse, but he will be moving into the loser's bracket now, where he's going to be facing off versus Xiao Shuai.
Yeah, I mean, what a crazy series, though. It was back and forth, and 3-2, and even this last game was close. Zhanhun almost had a good opportunity to make it out. He defended Dewalt's 3-gate obs pretty well, honestly. So, yeah, well, really good series, and congrats to Dewalt, man, to move on and face Mihu. And Zhanhun, man, he's one monster after another monster. So, it's, PvZ against Zhao Shuai is no easy task.
That's what happens when you make it to the round of 8. There's no more jokers anymore. You got to play the real players. There's literally everybody in the round of 8 deserves to be there. So we're going to be going into a break, and then we'll be back with our final series of the day, which will be Zhanhun and Zhao Shuai fighting